What's up, everybody? My name is Viola. I'm the host of the Cerebral System here on TransenDID. On this channel, we talk about DID topics, mental health topics, LGBT things, we do vlogs, gaming. It's a very varied channel, and it's going to continue to get more varied as we go along. So I hope you'll join us along this crazy ride of YouTube. As weird and hard as everything may be, I'm happy to be here and make videos that can possibly help you. Anyway, today we are going to talk about dissociation. I'm going to give you a rundown of what it is, basically certain disorders that you might have with it, and my own experiences. As always, got my trusty phone, because my memory is terrible. Sorry, sometimes I think too fast and my words don't follow. I'm kind of starting to realize that more. But, what was I saying? And there we go. Instant memory lapse. I am sorry. Oh yeah, my memory is terrible, so I need my phone. I hate when that happens. Like, I'm trying to talk, and then my brain's just like, what happened? Okay. About dissociative disorder, or dissociation. Many people will experience dissociation at some point in their lives. Lots of different things can cause you to dissociate. For example, you might dissociate when you're very stressed, or after something traumatic has happened to you. You might also have symptoms of dissociation as part of another mental illness like anxiety. For many people, these feelings will pass over time. If you dissociate, you might feel like you're not connected to your own body, or like you're watching things happen around you without feeling them. Some symptoms of dissociation include the following: amnesia. This means memory loss, obviously. You might lose your memories of things that have happened to you. Depersonalization, feeling disconnected from your own body. Derealization, feeling disconnected from the world around you. I deal with that. We'll get to that later. Identity confusion. You might not have a sense of who you are. Identity alteration. This means your identity may have changed. You might not remember your old identity. You might. Loss of feelings. Losing control of your body movements. You might have had these symptoms for as long as the event that triggered them, or for a short time afterwards. This is called an episode. For some people, these symptoms can last much longer. If you have a dissociative disorder, you might experience these symptoms for long episodes, or even constantly. Alright, so let's go over that a little bit. Kind of go down that list and see what I deal with here. Amnesia. I have that so often. I'm not even kidding. Like, my memory loss is awful. You guys saw it a little bit earlier. I completely lost my train of thought, but that's not really memory loss, it's just my brain being weird. Maybe, why did I even say it was like that in the first place? Brain don't work good. Okay, but I do forget things very, very easily. Like, you could tell me something, and I'll probably forget it within 5 minutes. It's real bad. And the losing memory of things that have happened to you, I don't remember a lot. I'll be 100% honest. I do partially blame medication, but I can't put all the way on it because I remember certain things, but I don't remember others that were just as important. So, depersonalization, feeling disconnected from your own body. I don't know if I have any of this going on with me. I might. I'm not really sure. Derealization, though, I have that every single time I go outside. I kind of feel very disconnected from the world at large. You know what I mean? Like, it's very weird. When you walk outside, you feel like nothing is real. Like, and you know, I don't want to put on my tinfoil hat and be like conspiracy theorist, but, you know, simulations and all that, you know, that kind of comes to mind, but it's just kind of this feeling of, like, you walk out there, and I'll go to walk the dog or something, and I'll just be like, this doesn't feel real. Like, this doesn't feel like I'm really here. And that's kind of scary. Identity confusion, you might not have a sense of who you are. I know who I am. Like, that, I don't have that issue. Identity alteration. This means your identity may have changed. You might remember your old identity or not. This is really complex for me, because being a trans person, it is very, that's a very touchy topic right there. Loss of feelings. I deal with that a lot, but I can also chalk that up to depression. Losing control of your body movements. I think I do have some of these problems where occasionally I'll just start twitching, and it's very weird. But obviously these are things that happen with, episodes. And my episodes are a little bit more sporadic. I'll be 100% honest with you. Types of dissociative disorder. There are different types of dissociative disorder. There's more information on each of these below. It is important to remember that you could have symptoms of dissociation without a disorder. Keep that in mind. There's also a lot of disagreement among professionals over dissociative disorders. First up is dissociative amnesia. If you have dissociative amnesia, you might not remember things that have happened to you. This may relate to a stressful traumatic event, but doesn't have to. See, I noted earlier, I don't remember a lot of things that happened to me in my life. In severe cases, you might struggle to remember who you are, what happened to you, like me, or how you felt at the time of trauma. I don't remember that either. This is not the same as simply forgetting something. It is a memory lapse. This means you cannot access the memories at that time, but they are not permanently lost. You may recall them later. With dissociative amnesia, you might still engage with other people, such as holding conversations. You might still remember other things and live a normal life, but you might have flashbacks, unpleasant thoughts or nightmares about things you struggle to remember. You may have dissociative amnesia with dissociative fatigue. But wait, not fatigue, sorry, I read that wrong. I don't know how to, I don't know how to pronounce that word, F-U-G-U-E. I think it was supposed to be fatigue, but I don't know. That's a weird word. This is where someone with dissociative amnesia travels or wanders somewhere else for other things that they can't remember. You may or may not have traveled on purpose. I don't know if I've ever done that. Actually, yeah, I have, but it's never been, like, extreme. I've wandered to other places in my apartment, and I just kind of don't remember how I got there. Alright, now we get to what my channel's about. Dissociative identity disorder. DID is sometimes called multiple personality disorder, but they have called it DID in this section. We're going to call it DID, because that's the proper term. If you have DID, you might seem to have two or more different identities called alternate identities, alters, others, whatever you prefer. These identities might take control at different times, i.e. switching. You might find that your behavior changes depending on which identity has control. You might also have some difficulty remembering things that happened as you switch between identities. Some people with DID are aware of their different identities while others are not. I happen to fall into, the former. I do know my identities, but I do have a problem with remembering what happened most of the time when I switch, unless it's under certain circumstances. I'll give you an example. Basically, I mentioned that live stream I was a part of when we were doing a Doom stream. I did switch. I did. And the person who switched in was Lulu. I don't remember anything she said. But I can go back and see what she said. So, in a way that's like remembering, but it's also like learning. It's really weird. But before I actually, heard what they were talking about, because they explained it to me, because they're nice people, they basically, I didn't remember it. I didn't remember anything. I just kind of looked at like, what happened? Like, it was really weird. Okay, let's see, where were we at? Where were we at on this one? Okay. There's a lot of disagreement between researchers over the notion of DID. While we think of someone with DID as having different identities, or personalities, some researchers think that these are actually different parts of one identity which are not working together properly. I mean, we don't know. They don't know, we don't know. There's a lot to learn. They suggest that DID is caused by experiencing severe trauma over a long time in childhood. Yep. By experiencing trauma in childhood, you take on identities and behaviors to protect yourself. As you grow up, these behaviors become more fully formed until it looks like you have different ones, when in fact different parts of your identity don't work together properly at all. That's a very interesting theory, but I don't know if I really agree with that idea. But, it's not my place to stand. I'm not a professional. I'm not a scientist. And, in all, it's only a theory. They don't really know, because it's very hard to tell. Other specified dissociative disorder. With this diagnosis, you might regularly have the symptoms of dissociation, but not fit into any of the types. Psychiatrists use this diagnosis when they think the reason you dissociate is important. The reasons they give include the following. You dissociate regularly and have done for a long time. That's how it's written. You've done so for a long time. That's what I should have said. You might dissociate in separate regular episodes. Between these episodes, you might not notice any changes. You have dissociation from coercion. This means someone else forced or persuaded you. For example, if you were brainwashed or imprisoned for a long time. Basically, POW stuff. Your dissociation is acute. This means that your episode is short but severe. It might be because of one or more stressful events. You are in a dissociative trance. This means you have very little awareness of things happening around you. Or you might not respond to things and people around you because of trauma. Unspecified dissociative disorder. This diagnosis is also used when you dissociate but do not fit into any specific disorder. Psychiatrists use this diagnosis when they choose not to give a reason that you have the symptoms, or if they do not have enough information for a specific diagnosis. For example, after a first assessment in an accident and emergency. Okay, depersonalization derealization disorder, DPDR. The feelings of depersonalization and derealization can be a symptom of any of the other conditions listed here. I have DID, so obviously I do deal with this. It has also been found among people who have paranoid delusions and people with frontal lobe epilepsy and migraines. But it can also be a disorder by itself. This means it is a primary disorder. There is some disagreement among professionals whether DPDR should be listed with other dissociative disorders at all. DPDR has some differences to other disorders. If in DPDR, you might not question your identity or have different identities at all. You may still be able to tell the difference between things around you, and there may be no symptoms of amnesia. Instead, with DPDR, you might feel emotionally numb and question what it feels like to live. That's deep. We've explained this in more detail below. You might have these feelings constantly rather than episodes, and DPDR doesn't have to be caused by a traumatic or stressful event. Many people think that this disorder might be more common than previously thought. This might be because of the fact that there's lack of information about it. Some patients do not report their symptoms, and doctors who don't know enough about it, meaning that they underreport the condition. With DPDR, you might have symptoms of depersonalization and derealization, or both. They're both valid. Depersonalization. With depersonalization, you might feel cut off from yourself and your body, or like you're living in a dream. You may feel emotionally numb to memories and the things happening around you. It may feel like you're watching yourself live. The experience of depersonalization can be very difficult to put into words. You might say things like, I feel like I don't exist anymore, or it's as if I'm watching my life from behind glass. I do not deal with this, but I feel for anybody who does, because that's heavy, and I hope you're okay. If you have that, be safe, please. Derealization. If you have derealization, you might feel cut off from the world around you. You might feel that things around you don't feel real, or they might seem foggy or lifeless. That's basically what I explained earlier. I walk outside and it kind of doesn't feel real sometimes. Especially at night. Like, I'll look outside and be like, and I've said this, like, this is actually something I've said, everything looks like a video game. And I know that sounds really dumb, but that's kind of my own weird way of saying it doesn't feel real. Because I'll look around and I'll feel like I'm in a night section of a game, and it's a very weird feeling. What causes dissociation? There are different things that cause you to dissociate. For example, traumatic events, difficult problems that cause stress, and difficult relationships. Other researchers have suggested that the use of cannabis may be a cause of depersonalization derealization disorder, DPDR. Well, I don't use it, so I wouldn't know. Treatment. Medications. At the moment, there are no medications for dissociative disorders themselves, although you may take medications for some symptoms. Some research has gone into the use of fluoxetine. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. To treat depersonalization/derealization disorder, but at the moment the results are not clear and more research is needed. Let's get on that. In dissociative identity disorder, different identities may respond differently to medication. In my case with that, I was cut off from them, and it was very hard. And it was more like they were like stuck behind a door and muffled, and it was very weird, like a locked door. That's kind of why, the meds didn't really work. If you have episodes of dissociation, you might also have conditions such as depression or anxiety. I have both. Some medications could help with this. For example, antidepressants could be used for depressive symptoms, and, oh god, this word, benzodiazepines? Something like that? I'm sorry, I'm bad at medical terms. For anxiety. Now, I'll say this. Medications I was on did not help my dissociation at all. So that doesn't work with me. Psychosocial treatments. Talking therapies are usually recommended for dissociation. There are lots of different types of talking therapy. Different ones might be used for different dissociative disorders. Psychodynamic therapy. If you have DID, then your doctors may think about long-term psychodynamic psychotherapy. This is a type of therapy where you talk about your relationships and thoughts. You might talk about your past. Your therapist can link the ways you think and act with things that have happened to you. For DID, psychotherapy might be needed for a long time, at least one session every week. This might be increased if your DID is quite complex or if it causes you a lot of problems. I think when I was getting therapy for this, it wasn't as deep as this, but I was in therapy. And I think it was like once every week or two, which it helped a lot, and I do miss going to therapy. Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. EMDR. Let's go EMDR because I'm not going to be able to pronounce that very easily. DID may also be helped by eye movement. EMDR. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say that whole thing again. In EMDR, you make side-to-side eye movements while talking about the trauma that happened. Nobody fully understands how EMDR works, but it could help you deal with past trauma and flashbacks. Doctors must be careful when using EMDR because it could make your DID worse if not done properly. But if EMDR can have benefits when it is used along with other treatment, the type of EMDR used for DID is slightly different to other conditions, so it is important that your doctor knows about your DID before you start. Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, or CBT. CBT is another type of talking therapy. You'll talk about the way your thoughts and feelings could cause emotional problems, and how your behaviors can make this worse. You focus less on the past and try to change the way you think and behave. Parts of CBT are recommended to treat DID by helping you change your thoughts and behaviors that come from trauma. I'm not to remember that one. A CBT approach has also been suggested for a long-lasting DPDR. If you have DPDR, you might often worry about your symptoms and think that you have a serious mental illness or that something is wrong with your brain. CBT may help change this way of thinking. By reducing your anxiety and depression that comes with this worrying, it may also reduce your symptoms of DPDR. Self-care and risks. You can learn to manage your symptoms by looking after yourself at home. I'm doing that. You'll learn how to notice when you're becoming unwell and know what your triggers are. I think most of my triggers happen to be people being mad at me. I'll probably talk about that in a bit. Not all the techniques here will work for anyone, and they might take some time to feel, and they might make some people feel worse. It is important to try something that you enjoy and that you commit to. Keeping a diary. That's pretty self-explanatory. You might find it helpful to keep a diary. You can also write about how you felt over the day, or you can write down goals that you want to achieve. I'm doing that, actually. It's very helpful, actually, now I think about it. Keep your diary positive and avoid writing about things that could go wrong. Good idea. You can use this as part of content about the CBT. Keeping a diary is not for everyone. If you have depersonalization derealization disorder, or DPDR, you might already spend a lot of time thinking about how other people see you. Well, that's alarming, because I do think about what people think of me a lot. A diary may make you feel worse. It forces you to think about yourself. I haven't had that issue. A diary can still help, but talk to your GP or counselor first. Grounding techniques. Okay, this is getting more into spiritual stuff, so bear with me. I am a pagan, so these techniques can be helpful for someone who has been through trauma or who regularly dissociates. They can help to ground you here and now. Grounding works best when it's practiced regularly. Try practicing these things every day. There are different types of grounding techniques. Using your surroundings. To use your surroundings, look around yourself. Focus on all the details of everything that is around you. Try describing this to yourself, either out loud or silently in your head. Use all your senses. Using your words. You can try positive words or phrases about yourself. For example, I'm strong, or I will succeed. Or if you're me, you can be like, I am successful, because I like to pump myself up. Write down a few things that are meaningful and positive for you. You could carry these around with you. Try reading them to yourself or aloud if your symptoms are bad. Using images. This is similar to using your surroundings. Try thinking of a place that you feel peaceful and safe. This can be real or imaginary. Excuse me. If it is a real place, choose somewhere that is completely positive with no traumatic memories. Shut your eyes and imagine that place. Focus on all the details and all your senses. Using posture. Try moving into a posture that makes you feel strong. This can be standing up with your shoulders back or relaxing your shoulders. Try different postures until you find one that works for you. Using objects. Try choosing an object that is personal to you, like a stuffed animal. You should try and pick up something that has only positive memories attached to it. Carry it around with you and use it to remind yourself of who you are and where you are. And of course there's relaxation, exercise and diet, sleep. It's a lot. There's a lot of info on this one. I'm just going to briefly go over those. There are a lot of different ways to relax. The important thing is to find something you enjoy doing, like cooking, reading, or gardening. You might find that meditation also helps. Or it might actually make things feel worse. If you have DPDR, you might struggle with meditation. That is a very good point to have. If that's the case, try finding something else that works for you. If you have a CBT, you could consult a therapist. They can help you find something that works for you. One of my last therapist actually, did meditation stuff with me. It was very calming. She seems to really know what she's talking about. Exercise and diet. There are no specific exercises that can definitely help you. But you can try jogging, swimming, or just trying to walk. Honestly, walking helps me a lot. Try to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. That can definitely help you. You can also try to reduce the amount of fat, salt, and sugar you eat. Reducing the amount of caffeine you drink can be helpful. That's why I was cutting caffeine. Now you know. Also, my brain just does stupid stuff when it's on caffeine. Sleep. If you don't sleep enough, your symptoms might feel worse. I have insomnia. That is a nightmare. It can take a few weeks for you to get into better sleep habits. Here are some tips to help you sleep. Sleep when you feel sleepy, obviously. Keep your bedroom as a place only for sleeping. Considering I sleep pretty much in the kitchen, that ain't happening. If you're only awake in bed after 15 minutes, get up and move around for a bit. I do that. Avoid taking naps during the day. I do you too. I can't help it. It happens. Try not to have caffeine for a few hours before you go to bed. No problem. Make sure you get up at the same time every day. This can help you get into a regular routine. I hate to say it, my sleep schedule's not good. If that's what they're asking me to do, I'm gonna have to try. If you sleep too much, reduce the amount of sleep you get each day by 1 hour every week. Wait. Oh, if you sleep too much. Do this until you're sleeping just enough. What risks and complications can dissociation cause? Some people with dissociative disorders may also have another mental health condition such as anxiety or depression, i.e. me. This is called a comorbid condition. Ooh. I didn't know that was the term, comorbid? Okay. In some cases, this can make your dissociative disorder harder in day-to-day life. However, all these conditions are manageable and treatable. Alright, now we move on to, let's see. Okay, this last section is carers and family. If you are somebody who knows someone with these issues, this is for you. If you're a carer, friend, or family member of someone living with DID, or any dissociative disorder, you can get support. You can get peer support through carer support groups. You can search for local groups in your area. If you need more practical or financial support, you can ask your local authority for a carer's assessment. As a carer, you should be involved in decisions about your relative's care planning, but can only be involved if your relative agrees to this. If they do not agree, their healthcare professionals cannot share information about them with you. They actually have a bunch of sites in this, so I might actually put those in the description. Supporting the person you care for. You might find it easier to support someone with dissociative disorder if you understand their symptoms, treatments, and self-care options. You can use this to support and encourage them to help and get well. You should also be aware that what you can do if you're worried about their mental state. Keep the details of their mental health team or GP Handy and discuss a crisis plan with them. They have even more stuff. Our website has information about supporting someone with mental illness, getting help in a crisis, suicidal thoughts, how to support someone, responding to unusual behavior. The site's called rethink.org, by the way. You should definitely check this out. It's all about rethinking mental illness. Other places to support positive outcomes for dissociative survivors, or PODs. This website has a lot of information on dissociative identity disorder. It has articles about the conditions, causes, and treatments. And they got all their webpage stuff on here. I'm going to put a link to this page that I'm reading off of in the description, because then you can find all the info you need. This is a lot of links. First person plural. This website has information about dissociative identity disorder. It has tips on treatments stuff here, including grounding and diary writing. I'm going to check that out myself. Clinic for Dissociative Studies. This organization has lots of information on dissociative disorders on their site. They also provide care and treatment for dissociative disorders. They can accept referrals from the NHS. They offer general information about dissociative disorders, but do not run a helpline. South London and Maudsley Depersonalization Disorder Service. This is somewhere in the UK. A lot of these are UK links, by the way. I don't know very much about the stuff in the US, unfortunately, even though I live here. This is an NHS service which specializes in depersonalization and derealization disorder, or DPDR. They have information on their website. You'll need a referral from your doctor to access this service. Okay, so that was a lot. I hope that helped a lot, actually. So let's get to the part where I talk about my personal stuff with this. I've dealt with dissociation for years, which is why I wanted to talk about this. Dissociation is something that scared me early on, because I would be in school or at home and I would just stare off. I wouldn't be doing anything. I'd be in the middle of class looking at a corner or looking at the floor and just not thinking, not doing anything, I'm just there. The reason it scared me was someone in my class thought they were a genius, which they're not, and told me that I was having a seizure. Really. Turns out I was dissociating the whole time. I didn't know the term, so I couldn't tell a therapist about it. And, yeah. I've dealt with that for as long as I can remember, honestly. I don't even know when it really started. Like, it's a long time. Now that I'm kind of realizing that more about DID and my dissociations and everything, and my derealization, I've had that a long time too. I don't really remember when that started. I don't know how long I've had that, but I've had that for quite a long time. I'm thinking like maybe the derealization I think started possibly around high school, but I might have been before that. I'm fuzzy on it. I'm sorry. But anyway, this whole thing is really eye-opening. And the reason I want to spread information about it is because there is so much misinformation about how these work, why people have them. And it's very hard for me to talk about it because, you know, it is a scary thing when you first start dealing with it. You know, when I was like 8 years old, I was in the middle of class and my teacher kept going, hey, dead name. I'm not going to say my old name. That's not happening. Let's just pretend they're calling me my actual name. Like, hey, Vi. Hello. And I blink a few times, like, what? I'm like, answer the question. I'm like, what question? Like, I remember losing an hour of class time during, it was just normal class and I didn't get anything done and I got yelled at. And, you know, that's the whole thing. Sorry, my throat's a little funny right now. But a lot of my dissociation, I think, probably stems from, a lot of the stuff I deal with comes from being yelled at. I don't generally deal with people being mad at me very well. And it is a trauma response. You know, when I start dissociating, it is very blatant dissociation. Like, I won't even say anything. Like, I'll just be staring. And I can be staring right at you and not hear a word you said. Like, that is how bad it really gets. But honestly, hearing about all these other ones really makes me, it doesn't make me question my DID. I know I have that. But it makes me think, like, what is it like to have these other ones? And I've got a pretty good perspective on it now. Like, it's very similar but very different all at the same time. The weird thing is, like, I mentioned that I was on medication before. The medications I was on were for depression, anxiety, and bipolar, which I have 2 of those. I have depression and anxiety, along with everything else. But I do not have bipolar. And, you know, I've mentioned that I had a therapist that was a bit of a pill pusher who wanted to have everybody on the same medication with the same thing. And it did not work. It really didn't. I still dissociated. I still dealt with everything. I still had so much anxiety. It was not a fun time. It really wasn't. I still had all of my symptoms. It was very jarring to me. Like, I kept questioning, like, why doesn't this work? Why aren't these things working? And her response was always, let's up the dosage, which did not help. And I refused after a certain point. I said, no, you're gonna basically make me a vegetable. I don't want that. Like, I'd already been told, like, I lost so much of my personality behind medication. And, you know, I talked to family about it. They're like, yeah, you lost your smile, you lost your laugh, you basically became somebody who you weren't. And, you know, if you need medication and you know what you need, I recommend you get it. But for me, I don't think any is going to help at this point. I've been offered medication by therapists before, saying, hey, we have this stuff you could try that you don't need to take every day. And I'm like, I don't know what that's going to do. You know, and finding a medication while you have your DID and everything is hard. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you stopping by. I always do. If you like what I do here, like, comment, subscribe, all that good kind of stuff. Really helps me a lot, especially with this algorithm. It is a mess. Remember, you're beautiful, you're valid, and you're important. That's very, very, very important to me and everyone up here. And I will see you in the next video I make. So until then, goodbye. My camera's down.